Hi kids, I'm Pissi Myles, your resident spooky drag queen.
And I am Sam Baxter, your resident spooky drag queen, spooky sister.
And this is My Spooky Gay Family. It's our first podcast.
Yes, it is.
We're podcasters now.
I mean, yeah. I'm awful at this. Already, it's been 3 seconds.
I would not worry too much about it.
I'm trying
at the very least, you don't have a lot of history to have to live up to.
That's fair. Try to pick out who got the performing gene. You know, I am super excited that we're doing this, though. I mean, we've been talking about it for a little while.
We have been talking about this for a very long time because we happen to come from a very spooky gay family. And how shocking to know that is where that title came from.
I mean, what do you think is more shocking, the spooky or the gay? Like, when you talk to someone, what shocks someone more?
I think in our family, I think people would be shocked to know that we're as spooky as we are. I think we wear gay on our sleeves, but spooky, I think, is unusual. Don't you?
I do think that's more unusual than being gay. Although I know that this happens to you all the time too, because we are 2 of 5 siblings, 4 of whom are gay.
Yes.
And I know that when I tell people that, the expression on their face just changes dramatically. It's like you just told them the earth was round.
When I tell people that, the expression on Dad's face changes dramatically. He literally he turns into the Shriek. It's terrifying.
I mean, I think he's just less fond of the fact that that's how we introduce ourselves.
I think it's because that's how we introduce him. We're like, Dad definitely has the gene, and that gene is cutoffs for our father.
It's like, this is Mike. He ate too many Fruit Loops when he was a kid, and this is what happens.
I bet he did eat a lot of Fruit Loops.
I think it's cute that you think that Nanny would allow sugar.
We are 2 of 5 siblings, and of the 5 of us, 4 of us are gay. It's me, Sam, and then we have 2 younger brothers, Bob and Kevin, and then our poor older sister, Jessica. Heterosexual Jess.
That's what we call her.
That's what she's in. That's how she's in my phone.
Heterosexual Jess. Are you kidding?
Yes.
Please tell me you're kidding.
No, she put her name in my phone. Her name in my phone is Awesome McAwesome. And that, if nothing else, that is the biggest signifier that she is a heterosexual.
Kevin's name for me in his cell phone is Lesbian Seagull. So
What?
I think I probably should have taken his phone.
What is that from? It's
from Beavis and Butthead.
Beavis and Butthead. I was like, that is a reference to something, and I don't know what it is.
Yeah, no, there's the teacher actually sings a song called Lesbian Seagull, which I can't replicate now.
Why is Kevin Lesbian Seagull?
No, Kevin's not Lesbian Seagull in my phone. I'm Lesbian Seagull in Kevin's phone.
I was like, why is Kevin Lesbian Seagull?
No, I'm Lesbian
That doesn't
Seagull.
make any sense. You're a lesbian seagull. How do you feel about being the lesbian seagull?
At first I was kind of pissed about it, but now it's a little bit like I'm more just confused as to why it was a seagull. Like I understand that it's a reference, but I feel like I have nothing in common with seagulls except that I eat everything in sight and shit on things that I'm not supposed to.
I know you're not going to be happy to hear this, but I'm seriously considering changing your contact in my phone.
Thank you.
You're now going to be
that.
Lesbian seagull.
That's so nice.
I wonder what I am in Kevin's phone. It's probably
something terrible.
I know.
It's probably something mean. Which we're going to stop talking about because eventually we would like to get Bob and Kevin and possibly heterosexual Jessica on this show.
I know, and I know she's going to be listening to this and she's going to be like, do they really call me heterosexual Jessica? We do. All the time. This is how we fuck up our siblings. We're like, yes, we talk about you all the time, and we definitely call you heterosexual.
We should have just called the podcast Gaslighting.
Or just gas with our family. So This is the very first episode of our podcast, and we wanted to give you guys an opportunity to get to know us a little bit. My name is Pissi Myles. I am a drag queen from New York City. I am a professional drag queen and performer. I've been performing for a long time. I did Philly and New Jersey, where we live now. I live here with my husband, David, who is a photographer and a graphic designer, and I love him. He's my favorite. I love him. And that's basically my knife my knife in a nutshell.
Your knife in a nutshell.
That's my new horror intro. That's my knife in a nutshell.
We haven't gotten to Freddy Krueger yet. Just
We will get there.
I'm Sam Baxter. I am his older sister by 2.5 years. I'm gonna get that in ahead of time since that argument will happen later.
It's 3 years.
Because he can't do math. And
2 5/8. 2 5/8.
2 5/8. Which is all of 1/8 more than a half. So
That's math.
That's not that
you
much
ribbed me for being bad at math. 5/8 is more than a half.
it is more than a half, but it's not that much more than we're doing it again. Okay. I am a writer. That's kind of all that I do, except for this.
Now.
Very recently, took the leap into writing full time, so hopefully very shortly people will recognize me as something other than, my father's other daughter, Pissi's sister.
This is our other daughter, Pissi's sister.
Yes.
I don't think I am the pinnacle of our father's idea of what his children have become. I don't think I'm the Dottie in this family.
Well, no, that's heterosexual Jessica.
That's heterosexual Jessica.
Who's listening to this right now going, I am not. I'm not. She's freaking out in her car right now.
You are Dottie.
You're Gina Davis. Be happy about being Gina Davis. There is nothing wrong with being Gina Davis.
You're Kit. What's her name? Kit something. What's that actress's name?
Juliette Lewis.
No.
Is that Juliette Lewis? No, who the hell is
Juliette
that?
Lewis was in The Other Sister.
Tank Girl. Who the fuck is Tank Girl?
I don't know. Wasn't she
Where's my
in-
fact-checking department? My wife is sitting in this room.
Wasn't she in Orange is the New Black?
No. Is she? Was she really? See, I'm a terrible lesbian. I didn't watch Orange is the New Black.
God.
I watched it.
It's nothing but lesbians.
I watched 2 episodes and I hated the main character.
I mean, the main character sucks, but no one watches it for Piper.
Lori Petty, thank you.
Lori Petty.
No,
but the sister's name was Kit.
Juliette Lewis is Natural Born Killers. Lori Petty is A League of Their Own. I know how I fucked that up now. It's fine. I get them confused all the time and it makes no sense. They don't even really look that much alike. It's like...
No, they don't. I mean, they were kind of the same era.
Yes. And I would like to thank my lovely wife, Sarah, for looking that up.
And I would like to thank my lovely wife, David, for also looking that up. So yeah, I think that's a pretty good deal that you're the Kit.
Yeah, it's not terrible.
I think I'm like the tractor on that farm, and I don't know what that makes Bob and Kevin.
I always thought of you more as a Rosie O'Donnell.
Rosie O'Donnell.
Yeah. From A League of Their Own, like that's a pretty bitchin' character.
I mean, maybe if you're looking at it through a lesbian's lenses.
I mean, it's A League of Their Own. How was I supposed to watch that? Because I wasn't told that I wasn't supposed to watch it through a lesbian lens, which is, hey, we're going to put 9 girls in a room and some of them are going to be partly undressed and one of them's Gina Davis and another one's Madonna. How was I supposed to watch that?
Yeah. I think the character I most that I most embody from that movie is, what's her name, whose head is the lump 3 feet above her ass.
I don't remember the character. I think her name's Betty. No, Betty's the other one.
Betty's the one whose husband dies.
Apparently, since this is the first movie we're talking about on the podcast, we should have watched it more recently.
It's Stillwell's mother.
It is Stillwell's mother.
I'm Stillwell's mother.
Yes, you are.
Like Whistler's mother.
Are we going to assign characters to Bob and Kevin, or do we want to get angry phone calls when one of them is Marla Hooch? As long as we're here.
I just had a Tina moment.
I just challenged him to a call out live. And the professional insult comic went, I decline.
I decline. Yeah. And I mean, but I think this is the reason that we are the spooky gay family, because we have a very bizarre sense of self in this family. We are very, very gay. We love movies. We love pop culture. But we also have a very spooky side. And that's why we started this podcast, because we love horror and supernatural things and spoopy things. I love spoopy. I'm into spat.
I'm still not 100% sure what spoopy means. It's supposed to be like sort of spooky and cute at the same time.
Yeah, spoopy is like silly spooky. That's how I think of spoopy.
Okay. Because the only context I've ever seen the word spoopy is that one gif of the dancing skeleton from WB11 from when they did like a Halloween special like 90 years ago.
I mean, that is probably the best embodiment of the word spoopy.
Yes.
I just love the word spoopy because it's like it's like the dopey brother of spooky. And that's basically what I am.
So, again, since we apparently started a horror podcast by talking about A League of Their Own, why don't we actually jump into kind of something a bit more on topic, which is our favorite scary movies, as opposed to our favorite Tom Hanks comedy vehicles.
I do love horror movies, and I think why do you think we as a family were so drawn to horror?
I think at least some of it was that we were poorly supervised. I think at least some of it was the late 90s, and mom and dad were kind of tired, and there were 5 of us. So it's, whatever, watch whatever the hell you want as long as I can sit here and not have to deal with you for an hour and a half. I don't care what's on.
Yeah, and mom really was not worried at all about what we were watching. So I think
frequently took us to Blockbuster to get them.
I know. She was like, Interview with the Vampire? Sure, what could go wrong? And we were like,
How is Interview with the Vampire the worst thing you can think of?
Because I have a vivid memory of the scene in Interview with the Vampire. You know the scene in the theater where they like strip that woman?
Yes, I know exactly.
I remember like trying to see what was going on and mom trying to block the TV because she realized what we were watching because there was a naked woman on the stage, and I tried to stick my head through her legs to see what was going on, and she clamped them shut to like put my head in a vice.
And I would like to thank you for that because I was able to veer around and watch the scene.
I was just so
transfixed.
I was like, what
reasons.
is happening? What is this nonsense? And mom just was like, no, you are not going to look at this. Little did she know I wasn't the one she had to worry about.
Yeah, well. I mean, it is kind of funny when you think about it. I think, like, some of the things we watched when we were, again, unsupervised, things like Puppet Master.
Puppet Master, absolutely.
Like, Pinocchio. Like, and not
Chucky,
Disney's Pinocchio.
Child's Play. I remember watching Child's Play at a very young age.
Yeah, no, I think Child's Play, I want to say I was like 7 when I watched that.
If you were 7, I was probably like 5.
Yeah. So I think one of the reasons we're so drawn to horror is just it's just always been a part of our lives. It's just always been there for us. You know, it's always been right there, even when it really shouldn't have been.
I know. How did you learn to cope with your emotions? I watched Interview with the Vampire, where every time they get mad, they kill someone.
See, I always felt like my personal spirit animal was just a little more Jason Voorhees and a little less Lestat.
You have always been drawn to Jason.
I have been. I think, you know, it's one of those things, like, it's a lot of... I crave a strong male presence in my life.
Is that why you married Sarah?
No, that's why I watch Friday the 13th 3 times a year. No. No, I'm totally kidding. I think what it really comes down to is, like, Jason is the only one who... I'm not scared of him when I'm watching the movies, but I will still have nightmares that Jason is coming to get me. And when I have those nightmares, that is when I'm scared. Like,
so it's not the movie itself, it's what you take away from the movie.
I think it's what you take away from the movie. I think it's also the fact that Jason is kind of... He's just a complete blank slate. Like, in a way where, like, Michael really is less of a blank slate. Like, Michael has a backstory, like... when we first see Michael, he's not in the mask. It's one of those things where Jason is just completely blank, and I think that there's just so much room there. And I'm a writer, so I love things that are ill-explained and need to be fleshed out.
And I'm fat, so I like things that are roomy. Would you say that Friday the 13th is your favorite horror movie?
I would say it's my favorite of the slashers.
Of the slashers. Even
Yeah.
more than Halloween?
I think it's just such a weird distinction to make, but Halloween is clearly a superior film. Mm-hmm. Like it is clearly a better movie than Friday the 13th.
Leaps and bounds.
But I watch Halloween probably 4 or 5 times a year. I will watch Friday the 13th 1 through 8 probably twice or 3 times a year.
All of them together as a
All of them
series.
together. I usually skip over 5 and 9. Freddy versus Jason, I gotta be in like a really good mood to deal with.
I feel that way more about Jason X. Jason X is less. I would rather watch Freddy versus Jason than Jason X.
That's fair. I think Jason X has a special place in my heart. And you actually went with me, but Jason X was the very first Friday the 13th movie that I saw in theaters when it came out. Mm-hmm. And it felt like such a big deal at the time. A, because I was going to see an R-rated movie. and B, because it's Jason and it's my guy and I've never seen him in a theater before. So like Jason X will always have this like special little place in my heart, even though it's terrible, because that was the first time I got to say I went to go see the new Friday the 13th movie.
Yeah, I get that. That was how I felt when I got to go see, and this is going to sound silly because it was so recently, but seeing Halloween, the new Halloween, the 2018 Halloween in the movie theater, there was something so special about it because Halloween is one of my very, very favorite horror movies. And like when the theme started and you see that pumpkin start to regenerate, I was like, oh, this is special.
That was such a beautiful opening.
They really did. I mean, I'm sure at some point we will do an episode about this. I don't know whether to call it a sequel or a remake.
I think reboot is the correct term.
Yeah. That reboot is, I think, one of the best reboots there are. But I would say if I was picking my favorite horror movie in general, especially because you and I both love slasher movies. I love Scream.
Yes, and who doesn't love Scream?
I don't know. Anyone who grew up in the 90s loves Scream. If someone tells me they don't like Scream, I just assume that they have no idea what they're talking about when it comes to horror movies.
I think that there's kind of, there's always that sort of, there's always that one person who feels like they have to say they don't like it because it's like, it's MTV horror, like it's Kevin Williamson and Wes Craven. Like, it's a very like CW11 kind of like, oh, it's all just pretty people from Melrose Place. Like, but this is the thing, it's like, freaking edgelord, like, I don't care. like, you know what, it was funny, it spoke to me, I saw me up there and legitimately had me wondering like, shit, could I survive a horror movie?
I know. But it's also like, it was a good introduction to the world of slashers. Mm-hmm. Don't you think?
Yes, I do. I think, and we've talked about this before, in that kind of like, if you've never seen any of the movies that came before it, it's a perfect gateway drug and a 101 course all in one movie.
It is, because it gives you the rules of horror movies. It introduces you to the jump scare and the real scare and the pop-up and the final girl and the best friend who might have done it and the suspense. That's why I love Scream, because it's like you said, there's an element of comedy, there's an element of camp and being self-referential, but it is just a really good, scary movie. And Henry Winkler dying is the funniest fucking thing you've ever seen in your life. There was a really... did you ever hear that anecdote? Henry Winkler was talking about...
You came with that. Okay.
But I'm saying, like, Henry Winkler was doing an interview once, and he was saying that they did one take of his death, and Wes Craven came up to him, and he was like, Henry, that was great. That was a good take. This time, do you think you could scream and act like you're being stabbed to death?
As opposed to just like and banging on the desk.
Oh no! Ouch! 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 Ouch!
I think actually one of my favorite bits in that movie is immediately precedes that when it's Henry Winkler like looking out into the hallway and the fucking janitor's there. The janitor's there. He's like, "Oh, not you, Fred."
That's Wes Craven.
Yeah, I know. In the Freddy sweater and the hat, and it's great. But that's one of the. Sorry.
No, I was quoting the movie.
Never mind. I'm so paranoid. But just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're out to get you. Doesn't mean they're not out to get you. I'm so paranoid I messed that line up. It's fine. But yeah, no, and I mean, we're going to do an entire episode on Scream. We're obviously going to do an entire episode on Halloween and Friday the 13th. Like, we're going to go over all the old stuff because it's all so wonderful.
And that's the thing. This podcast is really about our love of horror, and not only horror, but true crime and spooky paranormal shit, because we'll get into this. We'll talk about this, but we are spooky paranormal people.
Yeah, and I think that when you self-identify as spooky, I think it kind of implies it's a love for everything adjacent and connected to it. So we're going to talk about books on here. We're going to talk about movies. We're going to talk about kind of anything that's just a little darker than Central Park at mid-afternoon. Also, I have an encyclopedic knowledge of serial killers, so, be forewarned.
I'm very excited about that because I love serial killers, and I love to talk about serial killers, and I love talking to you about serial killers because you tell me all the shit I don't know.
That's terrifying.
I recently was listening to an audiobook about John Wayne Gacy, and I have to admit I stopped like 3/4 of the way in because it was written by one of the cops who was doing the investigation.
Were you reading the one by the prosecutor? Is it the one I recommended it?
No, you didn't recommend it to me. I found it because I use Scribed to listen to audiobooks because it's better than fucking Audible because Audible's a pain in the ass.
I love Audible.
If you want to sponsor us, I love Audible too.
I would like to point out.
In my personal life, I fucking hate Audible because I'm like, why am I paying $20 a month for one book?
You wanted to say you hate Casper mattresses while we're on here?
Casper mattresses?
How do you feel about Blue Apron?
Meal prepping is terrible.
Get it all out now. I want that purple mattress, so you
purple mattress.
Yourself. Yeah,
are Casper mattresses purple?
No, they're different.
Oh.
So pick one brand to malign and only one brand.
What is purple mattress what it's called?
Yes.
What are they?
It's You're asking me to do the commercial for free?
I'm genuinely curious.
I didn't write any copy. It's purple mattresses. It's supposed to kind of be like Tempur-Pedic. It's the one where, have you watched the commercials where they drop the egg and then they drop the guy on top of the egg?
And the egg doesn't break.
The egg doesn't break, obviously, because if it did, then that would be a shitty commercial. Yeah, that's the purple
when they
mattress.
pull him up and there's a weird cut.
The one where the mattress is bright fucking purple, Pissi.
I have not ever actually seen this commercial, if I'm being honest. I don't know it. But if you're listening and you like purple mattress, what is it? Purple bed?
Mattress.
Purple mattress. Feel free to drop us a line.
I really hope that's actually the brand name and I'm not just saying it.
They're like, it's actually blue bed.
They're like, it's
Thank you.
Violet mattress.
It's chartreuse.
What the hell?
What color is chartreuse?
The book that I had listened to about John Wayne Gacy was called Killer Clown by Terry Sullivan. That is not the one that you're listening to.
I don't know. I could probably
it doesn't matter.
Look. I don't remember what it was called, but I just remember I was really annoyed by the book because it was like I just wanted to hear about the crime and I wanted to learn about the victims, and it was like all the book was talking about this like police office, this detective's investigation, and it's like there is a certain level of that is interesting, but I didn't need 14 chapters of you sitting outside John Wayne Gacy's house playing a football game.
Oh, did you listen to one of the ones by the detectives that were tailing him?
Yeah, it was called. Oh, it was Killer Clown by Terry Sullivan.
Yeah, he was actually a prosecutor's detective.
Oh.
He wasn't actually one of the cops that was in the car. He was.
Well, he's not a good writer, so he should stick to prosecutor.
He was not a thrilling writer, but it does give you a very detailed breakdown of the investigation, and it does. I think what it comes down to is there are two main books you can read about John Wayne Gacy, and tangent away. One is written by his defense attorney, which is interesting if a little self-congratulatory from Mr. Amaranti's perspective, he compares himself to John Adams in the opening. So it's like, because John Adams...
Not to be too grandiose.
Because John Adams defended the soldiers that committed the Boston Massacre. So his whole thesis here is that everyone deserves a good defense. Look at this. John Adams defended the guys who did the Boston Massacre.
He's basically saying, don't hate me for defending John Wayne Gacy.
Yeah, that's kind of it. It's like, don't hate me for defending him and then making money off of it by writing a book.
Hey-oh.
To be fair, I believe he was originally retained on something else. Like, he was retained on a lesser charge, and then John Wayne Gacy, like, stumbled drunk into his office one night. He's like, I killed 33 kids! And this guy's like, well, you already paid the retainer. Here we go.
I mean, from my understanding, I mean, I don't know exactly what happened between him and the lawyer early on, but I remember, like, when they were on the verge of arresting John Wayne Gacy, the lawyers were, like, basically staring out the windows at the police cars, like, giving them these looks like, please help us. like, he didn't do it, but please don't leave us alone with him.
It's like, he didn't do it, but he's still a little creepy. He keeps talking about Pogo.
Pogo. You know what really freaked me out reading that book?
What?
They gave a physical description of him maybe like 3/4 of the way into the book, and they were like, he's like 5'8" and 230 pounds. And I was like, I'm 5'7" and I'm 224. And everyone calls him a fat motherfucker. I'm like, fuck you, Terry Sullivan. Everyone talks about him like he's this behemoth. I'm like, fuck you.
I mean, to be fair, if you watch the interviews from later on when he was in jail, I think he topped out at about like 3 something. Like he...
During the investigation, he was 230. He said it explicitly.
He blew up like a balloon animal, if you know what I'm saying. like it went full.
How was he executed?
Lethal injection. They botched it.
Really?
Yeah, they messed up his execution big time. They actually they changed the protocol at the jail because of how badly they botched his execution.
I mean,
I mean
that upset,
right? Like who's sitting here going like, oh my god, it must have been so inhumane. It must have been so painful. It's like he murdered 33.
Like
children.
when he strangled 33 kids.
Yeah, like when he raped and murdered 33 boys. Yeah, like
how strange. Now, just to rewind a little bit, because we've gone on this John Wayne Gacy tangent.
It got a little heavy in here for a second.
I know, it got John Wayne Gacy heavy.
But not as heavy as when we were in prison.
We have never been in prison, for those of you who take things too literally.
That we admit to.
Oh my God. What would you have gone to prison for if you had gone to prison for anything?
Okay, so this is my... The only thing I have ever done that I think I could have legitimately been arrested for was when I was 18. I volunteered as a march marshal for the Dyke March in New York City. So my job that day was to run along the parade route and block traffic because the Dyke March, unlike the Pride Parade, does not request a parade permit. Now, New York City knows this is happening every year. The cops show up and block the traffic for like it is a purely ceremonial gesture. But technically speaking, if they had wanted to arrest me for that, they could have. So I could have gone to jail for that. That is like my big activist story.
I think if I would have gone to jail, it would have been for stealing 37 boxes of Krispy Kreme donuts.
Is this a hypothetical or a thing that you actually
It's just a
did?
dream. It's just a dream of mine.
It's just an aspiration.
An aspiration. One day, I will have 37 free boxes of Krispy Kremes, and if you'd like to sponsor us, that's a sponsor I could really get behind as Krispy Kreme.
Or really get in front if you want.
Get in front of.
Just back the truck up and open
any
the hatch.
amount.
It's fine. But see, had I known that we were talking about things that we would like to do to go to prison.
You're like, I would go to jail for activism. I'm like, I'd go to jail for being a fat ass. That's what I would do.
I'm sitting here going like, man, if I could have picked anything, like I could have picked.
If only I'd know.
I could have picked anything.
Anything. What hypothetically?
Arson. Boston doesn't need Fenway Park anymore.
Oh.
It's only the second
She says
ballpark.
in her Yankee hat.
What else would I be wearing?
I mean, if you hate Fenway, I feel so cultured making these references, but
I am proud of you that you knew what I was talking about. I'm a little proud of you for that.
Fenway is the stadium, right?
It is the stadium
In Boston?
in Boston, since I just said Boston.
Did you? Oh,
yes,
I wasn't
did.
listening.
Because the Red Sox are terrible.
The Red Sox. Aren't there other Sox? Aren't there White Sox?
There are also White Sox.
Blue Sox?
No.
One Sox,
Not
two
in,
Sox?
not in Major League, no.
Are there Blue Sox in minor league?
There may be a Blue Sox. I know there's a Sky Sox, which makes no sense at
Fuck
all.
is a Sky Sox?
I have no fucking clue.
Is that blue?
I think they're yellow, actually.
Make it blue.
I'm gonna have to check.
Yellow? What sky are they looking at?
I don't know. The kind that wears a sock. like I don't know. Like Sky Socks are those weird like kite things that you hang from poles and they just like they blow in the breeze. I don't know. It's like, you know those weird ripply like box kite things that people. I have
really
no
have
idea.
no idea what you're
This
talking
has gone
about.
so far off the rails. The point is, I hate the Boston Red Sox.
I can't imagine there are very many people who don't.
I mean, the people of Boston seem to like them very much.
I mean, that's one thing. I don't know. I've never been much of a sports person myself. I've always been a drag queen, I think.
We like to live up to stereotypes here on My Spooky Gay Family.
We do. The lesbian sister loves baseball.
And football.
The gay brother loves being a drag queen. And Bob is also a drag queen, for those of you who don't know.
And not his friend Bob the drag queen.
No, not Bob the drag queen.
No, our brother Bob.
My brother Bob the drag queen and my friend Bob the drag queen are two completely different people.
One of them is copyright infringement.
I wonder if Bob the drag
sure who.
queen has spooky stories.
I feel like she probably does.
I don't even know if Bob believes in ghosts. I should ask her.
You should ask her.
I would love to have her on the podcast and talk to her about spooky
Have
things.
a drag race winner on this podcast.
We could get some winners. I know Bob. We know Sasha.
You're not allowed to get Bianca though because she would be mean to me and I would never recover.
I don't know Bianca that well. I've only met her a couple times. She was very nice to me though, I will say that.
She seems really sweet in like a weird kind of like when you get like Triumph the Insult Comic Dog like off like when
Off
you
the
take
hand.
off the hand, like it looks kind of cute.
Well, when you take the hand out of Bianca Del Rio, she is also very nice.
I feel like she would actually be more grumpy with the hand taken. Like I feel like that's part of her charm, really. Is that
She's like Miss Piggy. She's
Yeah.
only really functioning when she has a hand up her.
she has an entire human arm up her mouth.
Yeah, I don't know. I would love to have Bob. I would be very interested to hear what Sasha had to say about spooky things.
I mean, I feel like the most obvious person to ask would be Sharon Needles, but I have no idea if she would even do this.
I don't know. I've again, another person I've like met several times, and she and I talked a bit at Wigstock when I did Wigstock with Bunny. But did you like that little backdoor brag? I got in there.
Your little humble brag about the time you did
When
Wigstock,
I did Wigstock with Lady Bunny. I did. I talked to Sharon quite a bit that night, and she was very nice.
I'll get Lady Bunny on here. We can get her on for the cryptid episode. It'll be great.
Bunny is a creep. Bunny is a spook.
That's my point. We bring her on for the cryptid.
The cryptid.
When we start talking about cryptids like the Loch Ness Monster and like Champy and like Bigfoot and stuff, we'll just bring Bunny on for one.
You know, I probably could get Bunny to do this.
I would die. I would die a little bit.
It would be a very interesting episode, to say the least. I love Bunny. She is out of her mind, though. Every once in a while, she'll call me to, like, it'll be like, it has been like 11 o'clock at night, and I'll be driving home from either the city or from, one time it was from Philly. She called me because she wanted to talk about politics. Bunny loves to call me to talk about politics. She's very well informed, Bunny.
I believe that completely. I follow her on Facebook. Like it's pretty constant.
She's very progressive.
Yes.
Lady Bernie.
She is. Like aggressively progressive.
I know. Aggressively progressive.
Like it's very much like I care about other people and I'm yelling it in your face.
Actually, I will say I think Bunny is surprisingly easy to talk to. Like there are a lot of people who disagree with her politics, and she's very easy to talk to about that. I will say, I'll give her that.
I want to be very clear, like none of this was a read. Like it was very much
I know.
Like, I
We
have
love
nothing
Lady
but
Bunny
respect.
here at Spooky Gay Family.
We stand Lady Bunny on this podcast.
We do. We stand Lady Bunny. Lady Bunny was like the first drag queen I think I fell in love with, like as a little kid, because that was really where it all kind of started for me. With the spooky gay shit was like basically
Bunny?
the age of 13. I'm not kidding. It was like Rocky Horror, and Rocky Horror led to like Divine, and Divine kind of branched off into like Lady Bunny, Coco Peru, Jackie Beat. That was where it all kind of started for me. And there was kind of an element of spook to that, because drag queens, when you're 13, and this was a while ago.
No
when
need
I was 13,
to give the year, dear.
I no, nor will I. But when I was like a 13-year-old kid, drag queens were not what they are now. Drag queens were very like subversive, and they were like crazy people. No one associated with drag queens.
When you were 13, parents didn't like bring their children to drag shows.
No.
Which they do now, which is kind of weird.
Do you remember what Dad used to say? One time, Dad found makeup on the towels because I would like sneak into the bathroom and like use like dollar store makeup on my face, and he was like, "You're not in Rocky Horror," and he used to like slam doors and get very upset by it. I remember one time I said to Dad, I was getting into like Ozzy Osbourne because I was in that phase of my pubescence, and and I was like, yeah, I bet Rocky Horror doesn't seem so bad now. And he was like, no, I like this better than Rocky Horror. And I was like, really? I was like, Ozzy Osbourne, the man who eats bats live on stage.
But he doesn't do it in a dress.
Well, that's true. That's true. Our poor father. I put him through so much. Where do you think? What do you think in your childhood sparked the spook?
Sparked the spook?
Sparked the spook.
Oh God. I think I'm gonna go on record. It was the fact that we grew up in a haunted house.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Right? Like I mean, I know we haven't touched on this yet, and it kind of feels like this is coming out of left field, but we're gonna say it again. Our house was haunted.
Absolutely. I 100% believe our house was haunted.
I know many people who 100% believe our house is haunted, including people who did not live there.
Agreed.
So, like, my wife, who's currently asleep on the couch, because we're that entertaining, spent, I think, all of, like, 3 hours in that house the first time she was staying over, and I was totally sleeping on the couch, which is another thing where we put our dad through a lot.
Yeah.
And would not for any reason leave the room at night. Like, would not for any reason, like, open the door if the lights were not on.
Because our house was really creepy.
It was really creepy. And I want to be clear, like, we're not talking about, like, the Addams Family mansion here. Like this was a fucking split level.
It was a bi-level. Yeah.
Like, this is not at all... House on Haunted Hill. Like, we weren't fancy haunted. Okay,
No, we didn't have money. We weren't haunted with money.
We were solidly middle class haunted.
Lower middle class, like by the straps of our shoes.
In a single parent household with 4 kids.
4 kids, yeah, because Jess had moved out.
Yeah, because Jess had moved out already. But yeah, no, that house is freaking haunted. Our father still lives there.
I know. He's gonna be listening to this like, what? And this house is not haunted.
He has always insisted. He has gone on and off the record, both saying that the house was haunted and saying that it was not. It seems to depend on kind of
his mood.
The way the wind is blowing for him, whether or not the house is haunted.
Which is not unusual for our father. He kind of makes up his convictions
really hope he's
in the
not
moment.
Listening to this.
Oh, I hope he's listening. I hope he's listening and he knows that he is the most wavering.
I'm going to get the angriest phone call. Because he won't call you. He'll call me.
No, he'll text me.
He'll call me to ask me why I don't love him anymore.
I do want to make clear that I love our father very much. But I have no problem ripping on him at all. I have no problem putting him through hell, because that is basically the job that was assigned to me by God.
You are the middle child.
I'm the middle child. I was put on this earth to give him grief. That is what I'm here for.
Literally smack dab in the middle, 2 girls, you, and then Bob and Kevin.
I have like all the tenets of the bad child because I'm the oldest boy, the middle child. I'm a Gemini. I was born in June. Like there's no rock unturned in the grief of my garden. Like it is all nonsense. That our poor father. I was the oldest gay boy. I was I'm a drag queen. There's no nonsense. I spared our father.
I would like to think that I did soften the blow for you.
Well, you did.
I like to think that I put up a nice line of sandbags for that flood.
A line of sandbags.
Because obviously being the oldest, I was the first to come out.
Yeah, you were like the Chris Christie of my Hurricane Sandy or whatever it was.
I think that sentence was a hate crime.
I think Chris Christie was a hate crime.
I am very offended.
Here in New Jersey, we're not huge fans of Mr. Christie.
I'm going to go on record as saying you could have called me a fat dyke bitch to my face. And I would have felt better about it.
There's still time. The podcast is not over yet.
We're hoping to make it to 5 episodes. Give him a minute. No, I don't know. I was thinking more FEMA or something, although that's not a terribly good one either. There's really I shouldn't have gone with sandbags. I should have come up with something else. But
no, I like sandbags. Sandbags work. It was a good illusion.
I mean, that was what they said the first time I went to get fitted for a bra. That's
Whoa. I like those sandbags.
You haven't been a pubescent girl in New Jersey until you've had a little old Italian woman with just 2 handfuls of your business, and shoving and pushing and
holding them like bags of potatoes.
And it's very much like really I can handle this, but the point is really seriously. But, yeah, no, I mean I like to think that me coming out ahead of you did sort of make it better.
I'm sure it did, and I wonder if that added to the weird energy of the house was dad's coping with all of his gay kids.
So just to be clear, in almost every other circumstance, it is the angry teenager that creates a poltergeist.
No,
since it was the teenagers are all fine and
it was dad.
Dad. I really hope he's not listening to this.
I hope he is. I hope Uncle Paul is listening to this. I hope Uncle Carl is listening to this. I hope all of our extended family is playing this at the airport. I just hope so more people hear it. I just hope everyone hears how weird our family is. Because our family is weird, but we are a good family.
We are, and we do love each other very much, and we're very close.
I think it's because of our weirdness that we're close.
I think that's part of it. I think some of it is just, the fact that all the restraining orders out against us from other people sort of forces us into a corner.
Well, I guess this is it now. Restraining order.
Because we don't believe in family court anymore. But yeah, no, I think it's one of those things. I think one of the reasons that we're gonna bring this back to the original question, which is why I'm drawn to horror. Is because I find it very relatable. It's that kind of, that little, particularly supernatural horror movies, like ghost stories, Insidious scared the crap out of me, stuff like The Conjuring and Paranormal Activity, that is exactly the kind of shit that will keep me awake for 3 days. But I do think it's because it's always that moment where that first 20 minutes of the movie where everyone is telling the only person who sees it that they're insane.
I know. And you're like, but they're not insane.
But they're not. And if you've never had the pleasure of being a 13-year-old girl, no one believes you. No one believes you. So when you go and say, no, I shut that closet door and it's open now.
Yeah.
It's and you get patted on the head and go, it's just your period, sweetie. Because that's what happens. That's what happens. If you look at any...
I was attacked by a ghost with knives. Oh, she's on the rag.
You could walk in full-on broke neck lady from the Haunting of Hill House. And if you live in a single-parent household where that single parent is a male and you're a 13-year-old girl, he's going to say to you, do you need some Midol?
Did you ever talk to Dad about the fact that you thought the house was haunted?
Yes, several times.
I never did until I was like an adult. And to be fair, I was never a 13-year-old girl, but I have been a 30-year-old woman.
I mean, I was only one for a year. You've made a career out of it.
I know, I've done it forever.
You've been a 30-year-old woman since you were 26.
I know, it's true. I never brought it up with Dad. I remember at one point, Bob was talking to Dad about it, and I kind of like meandered into the conversation just to kind of be a part of it. And Dad was convinced that it was the ghost of his father.
Well, because he also insisted that the ghost did, like, helpful things for him.
Oh, not for me.
Yeah, no, I mean, that was the thing. His whole thing was like, yeah, no, when I'm, like, missing a screwdriver, sometimes I'll turn around and it was at a place where I really didn't think it was. And I think it's him because he like, found the screwdriver and gave it back to me.
And we're like, no, Dad, you have dementia.
And no, and I'm like, okay, well, do you want to explain? Like, if it's Grandpa, the fact that he's, like, hanging out in my closet at 3 a.m. is a little creepier than even if it was a stranger.
You had an experience in your closet?
Yes.
I also had, not in the room that we shared the same room at different times. So you moved.
So we never shared it.
Well, no, but I'm saying like we both experienced the same room.
I sublet it.
You had the room and then you moved out and then I moved into that room. But I had an experience in the room that I used to, it used to be, there were 3 bedrooms. My dad had 1 bedroom and you had the other one. I said my dad. Like
perks
of
having a vagina.
Yeah, you had your own room. And then the other room was me, Bob, and Kevin for like a decade. It was terrible.
On the other hand,
more than a decade. It was like it had to have been like 13 years that Bob, Kevin, and I shared a room. And while I was in that room, I also had like a weird thing happen where like I never slept with the closet door open because it always was like terrifying to me. And I woke up in the middle of the night and the closet door was open and I was like, this is spooky because I know I didn't go to bed with the closet door open. And we had slats at the end of our beds and you could see through the slats and I crawled to the end of the bed and it looked, I mean, the whole room was dark. It was the middle of the night and it looked like something like stood up at the end of my bed. And I remember like throwing myself back and grabbing, I had a cell phone at the time.
Jesus Christ.
But it was a flip phone. It was a flip phone. I grabbed my phone and like flip open. It probably was a razor. I had one. And I flip open the phone and obviously there's nothing there, but I was like, oh my God. Like it was probably one of the scariest moments. And Griffin was still alive at the time. That was our dog. We had a golden retriever named Griffin. And Griffin was like, not in the room, which also was very strange. He used to sleep in our room.
He used to sleep on Bob.
Yeah, basically.
Bob was a dog bed for
about
Griffin's 10
bed.
years.
And Griffin wasn't in the room, and I thought that was strange because it's like he's always in the room, and our door was open, and I never slept with the bedroom door open because I was always afraid of doors being open because of what I would see in them. Lo and behold.
Funny that. I don't know what led to that.
What a baseless fear.
Yeah.
What happened with your closet?
Okay. So I also had a big thing, and I have always had a big thing. Like even since I was like a really little kid, even before we lived in that house, like where the closet door and my bedroom door absolutely had to be closed.
Yeah.
Like I could not sleep if there was an open door. And I know you're all sitting there thinking like, are you sure you're not just crazy? But hold on. So I used to actually the room that I had in the haunted house had 2 closets in it. There was a regular kind of slidey door closet and there was also the linen closet over the dresser. Mm-hmm. Which was sort of a weird like I don't know, like 2x4 cubby with opening like French doors on the cubby.
French doors.
Why not? The kind that you pull and they open like separately apart.
Yeah.
But that made no sense at all. Whatever.
They work like doors. They work like doors.
Envision a closet, whatever that means to you.
Except it's 3 feet off the ground and it's only 2 feet.
Yeah, and it looks like a portal to some kind of demon world.
I think when we actually release this episode, we're going to have to like start an Instagram so that we can like put up a picture to explain this because I don't know how to explain this closet to people.
I mean, I feel like it's really it doesn't matter. We're getting off topic, but The slidey door closet, I actually had a piece of wood that I wedged into the bottom to keep it shut. Because,
Really?
yes, because one side had a mirror on it and one side didn't. And I would always close it so that the mirror side, because the end of my bed faced that closet.
Yeah.
I would always make sure that the mirror side was not the side that I was looking into from my bed.
From your bed.
Because
You know
it
what's
creeped
weird?
me out.
When I had that room, I used to do the same thing because it was
couldn't be
scary.
the other way. You had to have the blank one
Yeah.
at the end of the bed. So I would wedge a piece of wood in there because the first couple years that I slept in there were nights where I would wake up and the doors would have switched. Like, and we're not talking about like 11-year-old
like blown over.
11-year-old girl forgot to do the thing she does every night religiously and double checks 3 times before she goes to bed because she's neurotic. like no, I had freaking OCD about this, and I don't mean in like the cute funny way. I mean in the like legitimate like problem
Obsessive
way.
compulsive disorder.
Like had to check it 3 times, had to push it closed 3 times kind of thing.
Yeah.
So like yeah, no, after that started happening, I had a little piece of wood that I would wedge under it so that side of the closet would not move.
So it was between, because these were sliding doors.
Yeah.
And so you would put it so
I
the
would
door
put it
couldn't
between.
slide.
I would put it because it was one of those things where it's like, don't get me wrong, every waking terror of my life was the idea that one door would just slide open into the closet.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it was just, if I put this piece of wood here, the mirrored one can't move because
Yeah.
the mirrored one was obviously on the outside.
Right.
So like that was my whole thing. I was like, as long as the mirrored one can't move, we're fine. And I wedged this fucking stick of wood in there, and like there was one night I woke up, it was like 3 a.m, and it was very dark, obviously because it's 3 a.m. And the one side of the closet door was shaking. The mirrored side was shaking. Like something was trying to push it open and it wouldn't go. And I snapped the light on next to my bed and it stopped. And when I went over to the closet, I looked at the end of the piece of wood and it was all chewed up like something had been like pushing against it. And I went out into the living room, turned on all the lights, and sat up and watched TV for the rest of the night.
You're kidding.
But it was other things, like the little freaking weird closet. Like I used to wrap rubber bands around the handles because there were times I'd wake up in the middle of the night and the doors would be open.
That happened to me once.
That happened all the time.
I woke up in the middle of the night and the doors on that closet were open. And I just want to be clear, like, nothing violent ever happened to me in the house. Like, nothing ever hurt me. But it was like, there was a very, like, malicious
It
kind of atmosphere.
it felt very threatening.
Yeah.
And very menacing. Like it was very clear that there was probably nothing it could really do to hurt me, but it was clear that like it wanted to. Like that was kind of the thing that always scared me.
That was always kind of how I felt. I don't want to say I never felt like it could hurt me because it did feel threatening, but like nothing ever did hurt me.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. And you know what's funny? I actually think we should do an entire episode.
I think we
about
should
this
too. I
house.
think this should also. I think honestly, we could probably do several episodes about the house.
I know.
But to be perfectly honest with you, I think that might be an excellent candidate for the first episode where we actually bring Bob and Kevin in on here. Because Jessica never had the pleasure, but Bob and Kevin certainly did.
Yeah, Bob and Kevin. And I know that Bob has stories.
Yeah, Bob
I've never
has
really
some
talked
stories.
I'm sure Kevin must because, I mean, we shared a room and the same shit happened. But
I believe Kevin does have at least one story that he and Bob share, which is the absolutely terrifying one about the closet in your room.
I don't know if they ever told me this. Was it
I feel
after
like
I moved into your room?
No, you were still living in there. I think I remember when Bob had told it to me that you were still asleep. Like you slept through the whole thing.
And they never told me?
I feel like they had to have done this, but
All right, so episode 2 of this podcast is going to be us calling Bob and making him tell us this story.
Bob, tell the story.
I don't want to hear the story until he tells it.
No, and I'm
here.
not going to tell it because to be perfectly honest with you, I don't think I can. I don't think I actually remember it well enough to tell it, to do it
I'm
justice.
calling Bob tomorrow and telling him that this Tuesday we're calling him to have him on the podcast.
That's fine. That's totally fine. But yeah, no, it's one of those things where like sometimes I honestly think that having had those experiences, like, I'm kind of shocked how much I like horror movies.
I know. Isn't it bizarre? And I almost feel like it makes me love horror movies more because there's something about it that's like, I know that this world of horror is fake, but it kind of plays with the idea of like, well, where do I draw the line? Where do I draw the line between what is possible? Because I know things have happened to me, and what do I think is possible in only the realm of a movie? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I think it does. I think it also, kind of like when you think about it, sort of like in the Aristotelian tragedy sense, like it's almost a catharsis.
Yeah.
Like to watch it happen to someone else in a way where you know, like everybody's fine at the end. Like I feel like it's almost therapy.
That's a very nuanced critique.
What did I critique?
I don't know. That was like legitimate
I think
horror movie criticism.
I think you were trying to say insightful and analytical.
Well, no, I mean, it's
fine.
It's critique. That's critique.
She's over here like, just take the compliment, you fucking fat dog bitch.
I'm trying. Her words, not mine. Read it tomorrow morning.
It's my
other sister, a fat dyke bitch.
It's my word. I'm allowed to use it.
I am fat and a bitch. I am not a dyke.
No, you're not.
I am not a dyke. Although I love dykes. I really do love lesbians. I do. I love lesbians. There was a lesbian. I told you this story earlier about. I used to do a show. Well, I say used to. It was last summer. The summer ended, so I stopped working on Fire Island. Hopefully, I'll be back again this coming summer. But I used to do bingo on Fire Island, and there was a really, really wonderful lady named Hillary, and she was an older lesbian. I would say she was probably in like her early 60s, if I had to guess, maybe late 50s.
She's like 45.
I know. She's 37. I'm like, she was probably like 70, 72. And she was a really, really lovely woman. I really hope I get to see her again this summer because I loved Hillary. She used to come and she would always play, every Wednesday she would come out and play bingo, and I would sit and I would talk to her, and she had this adorable dog. I loved Hillary. I'm praying that I can go back and see Hillary again this year.
Was it kind of a downer, all things considered, when you met her? That it's like, I love Hillary. Just saying I love Hillary over and over again.
I love who?
like now that it's post 2016.
And for those of you who are going to criticize, we are diehard liberals, so don't get it twisted. I'm just teasing. I'm making fun. We're having a good time. No need to go all crazy.
And we will be talking about politics on this podcast.
Oh, yes.
So at some point, I'm probably going to have to like deactivate my Twitter and my Tumblr and my Facebook.
Oh, absolutely. I fully anticipate that people will hate me after this. I think that's a really good place to say, I'm looking forward to episode 2, especially if we call Bob.
I think that's an excellent idea. If we can figure out how to make that work, I think getting Bob and Kevin on this shit show just as soon as possible, and honestly, Jessica as well.
I would love if Jess would come and be on our big gay spooky podcast.
I think she will. I think if nothing else, we're creating peer pressure as we speak, so it's fine.
Jessica, you have to join us.
Don't whisper all creepily into the microphone,
like
then she won't do
ASMR.
it. Don't do it all creepy into the microphone. You know that the shit scares her. She's not going to do it now. What is wrong with you?
She was terrified of the aliens. And we could talk about that. She was terrified of the aliens in the movie Signs. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do remember that.
And she used to hate it because I used to go to her house and I'd be like, while she was sleeping, and she was like, ah!
Remember distinctly one night, all of us having to stay awake in her bedroom with butter knives because the clown puppet,
the puppet
from Poltergeist
that she buried in the backyard
was coming to get her.
Oh no, the marionette.
Yeah, no, we had one, but it was because we had watched Poltergeist because we were unsupervised. See? Pulling it all back around. I am brilliant at this.
Massively unsupervised.
I am masterfully.
The stories we could tell about that house too. Why did we live in so many creepy houses?
Because we lived in them.
Yeah, it wasn't the house.
It's one of those things. It's like
Being haunted is like stepping in gum.
You know what they say, where it's like if you meet one asshole a day, you met an asshole. If you meet 5 assholes a day, you're the asshole.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of where we're at.
Are we ghosts? Am I a ghost? Am I alive?
I mean, we're ghosting out of here because this is the end of the episode.
This is the end of the episode. But I'm very excited for episode 2 because I think we've got a very interesting conversation to be had about our spooky gay house.
I mean, the house wasn't gay.
We don't know. It might like other bi-levels. It was bi-level.
It felt very heteronormative. It felt very like...
Maybe it liked it was a pan house.
I mean, maybe. I don't know.
I don't know. We'll have to do an interview with the house. Oh my God. What if we do an what's it called?
I think
electro
EMP.
EMP.
You want to go do a paranormal investigation of Dad's house?
No, I don't.
Why not? We'll bring them. No, this is what we'll do. I think for our Halloween episode, we should get all 4 of us in the same room
and do a seance.
Do a seance in Dad's house.
Because I don't give a shit if it gets haunted now.
Yeah, who gives a shit? I get to leave.
That's like, why'd you bring in this house?
And believe you me, I will be out of there the second shit goes awry. like the minute the Ouija board planchette just goes through the window, I'm out.
I'm like, okay, bye. Oh my God, look at the time.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just Dad and Nanny living there. It's fine.
I know. How much worse could it get? I'm kidding.
Oh my God.
I'm kidding, Dad. I'm
Apologize.
Kidding. I am so sorry.
Apologize to your grandmother.
My grandmother. I was joking. That joke's probably going to get cut out anyway. Well, that's it, kids. That was episode 1 of my spooky gay family.
We hope you enjoyed it.
We did it. We did a whole episode.
We did a whole episode without, destroying the equipment.
Imagine what's coming next.
Yeah, next week we might even have, real mic stands.
Real mic stands.
Next week we might...
It won't be duct taped to the fucking...
duct taped to the thing.
Walls.
Yeah, no, it'll be great.
So that's it, kids. That is my spooky gay family. We have a lot more coming. Hopefully we'll be talking about our spooky lives. We'll be talking about spooky movies and our gay lives. Hopefully not too intimately, because there are parts of your life that I don't want to be that intimately.
Why do you assume I'm going to be the one who overshares?
I can't even imagine. I just feel like there are parts of your story that are too much for me.
There are parts of your story I've seen you act out live on stage.
I know, it's terrifying. But kids, that is my spooky gay family. And until next time, stay spoopy. And remember...
We traced the call. It's coming from inside the house. You hear me? It's coming from inside the house.
My Spooky Gay Family features music by Nate Walker, artwork by David Alon, and this episode contains clips from When a Stranger Calls, copyright 2006 by Screen Gems Inc. Please subscribe on iTunes, leave us a nice message, and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Tumblr. My Spooky Gay Family is a product of Barbara Duel Productions. Barbara.